Chris, tell me, why is it that every tennis player in the world really wants to win Wimbledon more than any other championship?
I think because you Brits really know how to do your events, you know, so well. I mean, whether it's like the royal wedding or it's Royal Ascot or Wimbledon, I mean, I think there's so much history involved and so much dignity involved. And Wimbledon is just, it's beautiful to come watch and see the buildings with the vines on them and the grass court. I mean, that center court is very, very famous throughout the world. So, I mean, there are lots of reasons, but it is the one tournament. If you were to ask tennis players all over the world which term, if you were to pick one, the US Open, the French, whatever, they would say, I'd like to win Wimbledon.
Is it all very noisy if you go to, say, Australia or in the States?
It's like, I know when I used to play the US Open, it was like a baseball game. I mean, people are screaming and yelling, and it's good in a lot of ways because people are really getting it all out and choosing someone to root for. But when you walk out on center court, there's like a hush of reverence, of, you know, respect, and it's very quiet, and I think it always provided a better atmosphere for me, you know, really to go out and concentrate.
So when you come to commentate, as you have done on a week like this for American television, when you're sitting there looking down on those famous courts, is there a little part of you that's reliving the days that you did it when you were out there winning?
You know, our commentating booth actually is right on the court, right on center court. I mean, we're not high up in the rafters. We're right down there. And I can see the players' faces when they walk out. And I can see their eyes, and I can see the emotion coming over their face. And I do remember the times that I played really well. I mean, I also remember the times I didn't play so well, too. Lost to Martina Navratilova an awful lot, you know, on that center court. But the best feeling in the world is when you walk out there and you play physically great tennis, emotionally you're into it, and mentally you're into it. You know, when everything comes together like that and you play some great tennis, there's no better feeling.
How old were you when you went into your first final? I think it was against Billie Jean King, wasn't it?
I was 17 when I had that semifinal match against Yvonne Goolagong. That was of big interest because she was from Australia, I was from the United States, and we were both very, very young. And then it was the next year. It was the next year that I played Billie Jean. And
do you remember that, you know, sensational feeling, as I would imagine, the very first final you played?
You know, I lost the first set 6-love in about 10 minutes, so it's like very intimidating the first time, the first final at Wimbledon, and I didn't know what hit me. I mean, Billie Jean was a veteran. She had been there. She had done that. She was the experienced player, and I went out there, and I had butterflies, and I just couldn't get a grasp of, you know, a hold of myself, and I couldn't play my game. And finally, I got around to playing my game, and I think I lost the second set 7-5.
People say actually there's been a great void since she retired because there hasn't been that rivalry on court that you had with Martina. I mean, that went on for so long that in a way it's all got a bit dull by comparison. Would you agree with that?
You know, I would have agreed a few years back, but now I think there's been a real resurgence, especially in the women's game. I mean, if you look at the younger players, Martina Hingis, the two, Venus and Serena Williams, Anna Kournikova, and then you have the veterans like Monica Seles, who's come back after the tragedy. You know, her father passed away a few weeks ago, and she went through the stabbing. So there's a big story. Steffi Graf, who's playing great this year at Wimbledon, and she, you know, has been injured. And I just think there's so many names and so many really interesting personalities that it's better now than it ever has been.
Do you think? Because, I don't know, there seem to be like so many aces from the guys. The rallies don't seem to be the same.
But the guys, we're not talking about the guys.
Yeah, no, but I'm just thinking generally of Wimbledon, you know.
Right.
And, you know, I just think when you think back on McEnroe and Jimmy Connors and all those personalities.
Yeah, that was a great era. I mean, that was, what was it, the late 70s, early 80s when you had Billie Jean, Martina, myself, Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe, Bjorn Borg. I mean, you had controversy, you had outspokenness. And the wonderful thing about that era of McEnroe Connors is they got everything, their personality showed on the court. And I think nowadays the players are very robotic, and I'm not critical because I was that way, so I can't be critical, but they're keeping a lot more inside, and off the court they're not revealing themselves to the press, so you're sort of getting nothing from the players. But I think on the women's side, I think we're doing a much better job in marketing. I think you're getting a lot more.
And do you think that technology and different rackets, etc., and bigger money, do you think that has changed the women's game enormously?
I think it's changed for the better. I mean, I think the one thing lacking in the women's game was always power. You always said, oh, the men are so much more powerful than the women, they deserve more prize money, But I think with the new rackets, the new equipment, I think the women have more power, and it makes it much more interesting. But I think it's hurt the men's game, because now on grass, especially at Wimbledon, it's a matter of serve and volley, and boom, the point seems to be over. So.
Yeah, because some of the finals actually are, I'm not saying boring, because it's always exciting to watch, but they're just not like the old days in a way, with constant rallies and all of that.
Well, constant rallies, and we also, when we started out in the 70s, we were using wood rackets, so they weren't as powerful. We showed more finesse and more touch shots, and maybe more variety in our games.
Now, when you decided to retire and you married the most delicious man, your Olympic skier, and you've got 3 gorgeous children now.
I've had 2 delicious husbands.
Yes, that's very true. I wasn't going to go over your husbands, but I was thinking about the current
Both of them are and were and whatever.
But was it, in some respects, after all that competition and despite all the success that you'd had, was it a relief not to have to undergo that pressure and to reach those levels? It
was. I mean, I retired on my own terms, and that's what I hope every athlete retires when they want to. I was 34 years old. I've been on the circuit for so many years, a professional for 18 years, and mentally I just got burned out, and it wasn't even my body. My body didn't fall apart. It was just the mental aspect of waking up and knowing I had to play a match, and I was going to be a winner or a loser at the end of the day. It was just too much for me. So and even to this day, I mean, I think I've retired almost 9 years now, and even to this day, every morning when I wake up, I feel like I'm on vacation. So that shows you the pressure. It's still sort of peeling away from me. Yes. And would you say that you have had more fulfillment out of this particular very happy marriage and your children and everything that goes along with that, and with your still having your tennis academy on the side, all of that? Is that more fulfilling than winning all those trophies? It's so different, and I don't want to undermine my tennis career, because, believe me, there's no better feeling than holding up that Wimbledon plate when you've won Wimbledon and walking around the court. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling, but on a day-to-day basis, as far as joy is concerned, there's nothing like having kids. And I try to explain that to women that have never had children. They kind of look at me and go, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think women who have had children understand what I'm saying. It's a 24-hour responsibility, and it's hard work, but it's just so joyful, and they give back so much. It's wonderful. Because you came from a very sporting family. Right. Your father, your sister played tennis. Will you encourage your children to be sporty? I try to get him to play tennis, and my oldest son associates tennis with me being away from him, because early on, whenever I had to slip away for an hour a day, he would see me with the tennis racket. So he kind of has a resentful attitude towards tennis. So he doesn't want to have anything to do with tennis. But skiing? Wonderful skier. They're both, 6 and 4 years old. They both know how to ski down every mountain, and they snowboard, and they rollerblade, and they play baseball. I mean, they do every other sport but tennis. So I take it, actually, that overall you would enjoy coming back to Wimbledon in your commentating status. I love it. It's so funny, because I used to look at Billie Jean King, and I used to say, boy, once I retire, I'm going to retire, and I'm never going to come back and commentate or coach kids or anything. I'm just going to get out of the game. And I read that quote from Steffi Graf recently when she said that. But you love the game, and you can't shut the door completely. It's been such a part of my life. You just like to be around it. Yeah, I like to be around it, very much. Well, I'm thrilled you came in to see us in the house. And if you ever want another workout, just let me know, won't you? You're so good. You're great. She tells lies very well, too. Will you thank for me, Chris Evert? Thank you.